The gravity plating beneath Chief Engineer Marcus Trent's boots flickered twice before dying completely. His stomach lurched as weightlessness took hold, sending him drifting upward in the Jathiri flagship's engineering bay. Around him, alien crew members shrieked in their chittering language, their 6 limbs flailing as they tumbled through the air. Red emergency lighting bathed everything in blood-colored shadows. "Stabilizers failing across all decks," the translator crackled in his ear. "Collision protocols engaged. Impact in 4 minutes." Marcus grabbed a conduit to halt his spin. Through the transparent aluminum viewport, he could see the asteroid field they'd been navigating, jagged rocks the size of mountains now drawing closer as the ship's momentum carried them forward without maneuvering capability. The Jathiri vessel, 3 kilometers of crystalline architecture and bioorganic technology, was about to become debris. The engineering bay's entrance dilated. Queen Sharjan entered, her ceremonial robes floating around her like dark water. Unlike her panicking crew, she moved with deliberate precision, using the handholds designed into the walls. Her 4 eyes, 2 forward-facing, 2 on the sides of her elongated skull, fixed on Marcus with unsettling focus. "Human engineer." Her voice bypassed the translator, emerging directly from the translation implant in his skull. "Your assessment." Marcus pulled himself along the railing toward the gravity generator's housing, a sphere of interlocking crystalline matrices suspended in the center of the bay. Jathiri technology was beautiful, elegant, and completely foreign to human engineering principles. He'd been aboard for 3 weeks as part of the first human Jathiri engineering exchange program, and he still barely understood how their systems converted quantum fluctuations into artificial gravity. "The primary resonance chamber has fractured," he said, studying the diagnostic hologram one of the Jathiri technicians had managed to project despite the chaos. "Secondary and tertiary backups are cycling but can't maintain coherent field generation. Without gravity, you can't stabilize attitude control. Time to repair?" Marcus met her gaze. The Jathiri were an ancient species, their civilization spanning 2,000 years of recorded history. They'd mastered faster-than-light travel when humans were still building pyramids. Their technology was grown, not built, each ship a living thing shaped over decades. "Your technicians say 6 hours to grow a replacement chamber. We have 4 minutes. Then we die with dignity." Sharjan's tone carried no fear, only acceptance. "I will not have my crew suffer fear in their final moments." Shinka, a smaller Jathiri, barely adolescent by the proportions of her body, pulled herself through the entrance. Marcus recognized her. Shinka, the queen's daughter, who'd been shadowing the engineering teams with endless curiosity. "Yes, mother." "Signal all decks. Tell them their queen is proud. Tell them, wait." Marcus was already moving, pulling himself hand over hand toward the generator housing. His mind raced through every repair he'd ever made, every jury-rigged solution from his years serving on colony ships where replacement parts were months away. "Human, there is no time for. The resonance chamber is crystalline matrix, right? It maintains quantum entanglement through harmonic vibration." Marcus reached the housing's access panel. "Your people grow these things over weeks because you're maintaining perfect molecular alignment. But what if we don't need perfect?" He yanked the panel open. Inside, the fractured chamber glowed with dying luminescence, its internal structure visible through the crack running across its surface. The break was clean, recent, the 2 halves still aligned but separated by perhaps 2 millimeters. "If you could realign the matrices, they would still be incompatible," Sharjan said. "The fracture has disrupted the quantum coherence. Even if rejoined, they cannot resonate. Not if rejoined gently." Marcus braced his feet against the housing. "But if shocked back together hard enough, the quantum states might reset." It's like hitting an old piece of equipment that stopped working. That is absurd. Our technology does not function on such primitive principles. Your technology has grown, organic, self-healing. Marcus positioned his hand against the outer housing, calculating angles and force vectors, which means it has error correction built into its quantum structure. You just need to give it a reason to activate those protocols. You will destroy the entire generator. We're dead anyway in 3 minutes. Sharjan's 4 eyes studied him. Around them, the ship shuddered as it grazed the outer edge of an asteroid's gravity well. More alarms shrieked. Crew members tumbled past, some praying in their clicking language, others simply clutching one another. Shinka, the queen said quietly. Move to a safe distance. Mother, I want to now. The young Jathiri obeyed, pulling herself to the far wall. Sharjan moved beside Marcus, her long fingers gripping the same handholds. If you are wrong, human, you will die having tried. I respect this. If I'm right, remind me to write a paper about percussive maintenance for quantum systems. Marcus pulled his arm back. He had one shot. The housing was dense, the chamber inside suspended in electromagnetic fields. He needed to transfer enough kinetic energy through the housing to shock the fractured pieces together without shattering them further. He thought of every desperate repair, every moment when knowledge failed and instinct took over. Then he drove his fist forward with every newton of force his muscles could generate in zero gravity, using the handholds for leverage. The impact rang through the bay like a bell. For one endless heartbeat, nothing happened. Then, the chamber blazed brilliant white. The crack sealed itself with a sound like singing crystal. The matrices realigned, their quantum states collapsing into coherence through what had to be pure chance, and the self-repair protocols encoded into their structure. Gravity returned. Marcus dropped half a meter to the deck, his knees buckling. Around him, Jathiri crew members fell like rain, their training taking over as they converted tumbles into controlled landings. The ship's attitude control engaged immediately, thrusters firing in coordinated bursts that Marcus felt through the deck plating. Collision averted, the computer announced. Gravity at 93% nominal. Attitude control restored. Marcus stayed on his knees, adrenaline draining from his system. His hand throbbed where he'd struck the housing. Probably cracked a knuckle. Definitely would bruise. Sharjan stood perfectly still, all 4 eyes focused on the generator. The chamber pulsed with steady light now, its resonance filling the bay with a subsonic hum that Marcus felt in his bones. Impossible, she whispered. Engineering is applied impossibility, Marcus said, climbing to his feet. You learn that on colony ships where everything breaks and nothing arrives on time. The queen turned to face him. Her expression was unreadable by human standards, but something in her posture had changed. She moved closer, studying his face with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. You struck our most sophisticated technology with your hand. You gambled all our lives on intuition and violence. I gambled on self-repair protocols and quantum probability. The violence was just the delivery mechanism. My engineers trained for decades to understand these systems. You have been here weeks. Marcus flexed his aching hand. Different perspective, Your Majesty. Sometimes that's all you need. You see elegant solutions because you built elegant systems. I see duct tape and hope because that's what kept humanity alive in the early colonies. Sharjan made a sound in her throat, something between a hum and a click that the translator rendered as laughter. Duct tape, she repeated. I know this term. Adhesive material humans apply to everything. Pretty much. And hope? The thing that makes you try when trying is stupid. The queen looked at the generator again, then at her daughter, who had crept closer during the exchange. Jinka's eyes were wide, her breathing rapid with excitement rather than fear. Jinka watched you, human Marcus. She has been asking questions about human engineering. Primitive methods, she called them. Simple and crude. That's accurate. But effective. Sharjan gestured at the generator. This device will need proper repair. The chamber is functional but stressed. When we reach the station in 2 days, my engineers will grow a replacement. Probably wise. Until then, you will explain to them how you knew this would work. You will teach them percussive maintenance. That sound again, definitely amusement. And you will help Jinka understand that sophistication and effectiveness are not the same thing. Marcus glanced at the young Shathiri. She tilted her head in what he'd learned was their equivalent of a nod. I have many questions, Jinka said. Starting with why humans hit things to make them work. That, Marcus said, is going to require a long explanation involving the history of human spaceflight, resource scarcity, and a fundamental unwillingness to accept that something is actually broken. Sharjan moved toward the exit, her robe settling around her now that gravity had returned. At the threshold, she paused. Human Marcus, you saved 3,000 lives today with violence and hope. The Jathiri do not forget such debts. Just doing my job, Your Majesty. No. All 4 eyes fixed on him again. You exceeded your job. You exceeded expectation and probability. This is what your people call humanity, fuck yeah, correct? Marcus blinked. The translator had rendered the phrase in perfect English, complete with inflection. Where did you, Jinka has been studying human culture. She finds your profanity colorful. The Queen's tone carried clear disapproval mixed with resignation. She explained this phrase. The insistence that humanity will prevail through stubbornness and improvisation. That's basically it, yeah. Then, fuck yeah, human Marcus. Well done. Sharjan swept out of the engineering bay. In the silence that followed, several Jathiri technicians began chattering rapidly, their instruments already scanning the repaired generator. Jinka approached Marcus, her movements careful, almost reverent. Will you teach me? She asked. Not just about hitting things. About thinking like a human engineer. About solving problems with limited tools and unlimited determination. Marcus looked at his bruised knuckles, then at the generator still humming with steady light. He thought about every impossible repair he'd made, every time he defied the manual and survived through luck and stubbornness. Yeah, he said. I can teach you that. Fair warning though, it involves a lot of swearing. I have been practicing, Jinka said seriously. Fuck is a very versatile word. Oh boy. Your mother is going to love me. The young Jathiri made that humming clicking sound. Definitely laughter. Outside the viewport, the asteroid field receded as the ship's course corrected. The stars burned cold and distant, indifferent to how close they'd come to adding one more debris field to the universe's collection. But inside the engineering bay, surrounded by alien technology he barely understood and aliens who barely understood him, Marcus felt something familiar. Purpose. The kind that came from fixing broken things and refusing to accept defeat. He pulled up a diagnostic screen, studying the generator's readings. 93% efficiency wasn't perfect, but it would hold until they reached the station. Sometimes good enough was all you needed. Sometimes hitting things actually worked. And sometimes the difference between dying in space and living to see another day came down to a human engineer with bruised knuckles and the willingness to try something stupid. Jinka moved beside him, her eyes tracking the same data. What do we do now? Marcus smiled. Now? Now I teach you the most important lesson in human engineering. Which is, always carry duct tape. You never know when you'll need to fix something that's supposed to be unfixable. The young Jothiri looked at him with all four eyes, processing this wisdom. Then she nodded slowly. Humans are very strange. Yeah, Marcus agreed. But we're pretty good at not dying. This is what matters most. Exactly. They stood together in the humming silence of the engineering bay, alien and human, studying the generator that should have been irreparable. Around them, the ship sailed on through the void, its gravity stable, its course true, its survival owing entirely to the human principle that sometimes the best tool is a closed fist and the conviction that broken things can be fixed. The Jothiri had mastered elegant solutions over millennia of advancement. But humanity had mastered something else entirely. The refusal to give up, even when giving up made sense. The conviction that impossible just meant nobody had tried hard enough yet. The understanding that sometimes technology needed less precision and more percussive maintenance. Queen Sharjan would later write in her official log that the human engineer Marcus Trent had saved her vessel through unconventional methods that defied Jothiri engineering principles. She would recommend further cultural exchange, particularly in the area of improvised repair techniques. But in the privacy of her quarters that night, she would replay the moment over and over, the human pulling his arm back, the impact, the impossible moment when shattered crystal healed itself through nothing but force and luck. And she would understand something about humanity that no amount of diplomatic briefings had conveyed. They were a young species, crude by Jothiri standards, lacking the refinement of millennia. But they possessed something that could not be taught or grown or engineered. The absolute conviction that any problem could be solved if you hit it hard enough and refused to accept defeat. In a galaxy of ancient civilizations with ancient solutions, humanity brought something new. Desperate innovation, stubborn hope, the willingness to try stupid things because doing nothing was worse. Sharjan understood now why the galactic community both feared and respected these strange primates. They didn't just survive in an uncaring universe. They thrived through sheer bloody-minded refusal to do otherwise. And sometimes, that was exactly what the galaxy needed. A species young enough to still believe in impossible solutions. Crazy enough to try them. And lucky enough to sometimes make them work. Fuck yeah indeed. 2/2